Well, welcome back, my delicious darlings, to Whispers in the Dark. Tonight I'll take you into a forest where trees are not silent. They have eyes, they have ears. Their roots slither with secrets, and when greed dares disturb their slumber, the reckoning is terrible to behold. Gather close, for this is the tale of the watching trees. Can you hear it even now? The leaves whispering stories through the wind, deep in an ancient forest, where sunlight barely brushed the ground, there once lay a village like no other. It was hidden beneath a canopy so thick it seemed a cathedral of nature itself. Crops grew impossibly tall, wheat brushing the height of a man's shoulder, vegetables fat with color and life, water so clear it healed broken bones, cured sickness, breathed vitality into the weary. The villagers thrived, long lives, bright faces, children laughing beneath the towering guardians that loomed over their home. But my sweets, these were no ordinary trees. The elders warned of their true nature: oaks, pines, willows, eyes that never closed, ears that caught every sigh. Through their branches they listened. Through their roots they felt every heartbeat, every secret pressed into the soil. Long ago, it was said, a god was born here. Before ascending beyond mortal reach, they planted these trees as protectors, watchers, listeners, guardians. For generations the pact held, until the strangers came. It began with violence. Merchants, ambushed by bandits, fled into the forest, clothes torn, faces bloodied, lungs burning. And then, like a curtain parting, the trees revealed the golden village. The villagers rushed to their aid. Food, shelter, healing waters, kindness, always kindness. But among the survivors was a man with eyes like sharpened glass. He smiled his thanks, while his heart turned black with envy. He saw not a sacred trust to be respected, but resources to be exploited. He calculated profits from selling their miraculous water to physicians and apothecaries in distant cities. He imagined the fortune to be made from crops that never failed. He envisioned caravans of merchants beating a path to his door. The villagers shared their secrets freely. The god, the trees, the sacred wells. They showed him the bounty of their crops, the laughter of their children. And with every word, his smile widened, and his greed grew fangs. He left with gratitude dripping from his lips. But weeks later, he returned, this time with an army. The villagers approached as before, open hands, open hearts, and his answer was steel. Farmers fell with soil beneath their nails. Women bled out upon the sacred ground. Children's laughter twisted into screams that rattled the canopy. When it was done, he stood master over corpses and ash. But oh, the forest was listening. Every cry, every plea, every dying breath was carried to the watching trees, and their trunks shivered with rage. The man, ever calculating, ordered the bodies buried. "We must protect the tree," he said. "They're valuable." Oh, how right he was. For as the villagers returned to the soil, their sorrow seeped into the roots. The trees drank deeply, not peace, not joy, but grief, betrayal, rage. And for the first time in centuries, they turned. It began slowly, almost imperceptibly. The crops, which had stood tall and golden the day before, began to wither. Grain heads turned brown and hollow. Vegetables rotted on the vine. The abundant harvest the man had dreamed of selling crumbled to dust at his touch. The sacred wells turned bitter. Water that had once healed now brought sickness to any who drank. Men fell ill with fevers and stomach pains. Some died clutching their throats, their lips blue from the poisoned water. The very air grew thick and toxic. Each breath was a struggle. The soldiers who had laughed over their easy conquest now gasped like fish out of water, their eyes red and streaming. The man raged at his misfortune. His dreams of profit withered like the crops around him. He had gambled everything on this venture and now watched his investment die before his eyes. In his fury, he did what desperate men so often do. He looked for someone else to blame. Standing in the center of the dying village, surrounded by his sickening soldiers and rotting crops, the man raised his fist to the sky and shouted at the trees themselves. "Bring it back," he screamed. "Bring back the prosperity. You served them. Now serve me. I am master here now." He cursed the trees for their betrayal. He ranted about his investment, his plans, his right to profit from what he had conquered. His voice grew hoarse with selfish grievances and desperate demands. But as he screamed, something changed around him. The wind, which had been howling through the branches, suddenly stopped. The rustling of leaves ceased. Even the labored breathing of his dying men fell silent. The world held its breath, and in that terrible quiet, the earth began to shake. What started as a tremor became a quake. What started as a quake became the very earth's fury unleashed. The wind returned with the force of a hurricane, bending the great trees like saplings, their leaves screaming with a sound that was almost human. The sky darkened as storm clouds gathered with unnatural speed. Lightning split the air, and thunder rolled like the drums of war. But it was what came from beneath that brought true terror. Roots, massive, ancient roots that had slumbered in the deep earth for centuries, burst through the ground like striking serpents. Thick as tree trunks, strong as iron, they moved with terrible purpose. The soldiers tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. Roots blocked every path, rose up before every escape route. Some men were caught and flung through the air like dolls, their bodies breaking against the mighty tree trunks. Others were crushed beneath roots that descended with the weight of mountains. The forest had become a maze of grasping, writhing wood, and at its center stood the man who had brought this doom upon himself. When the last of his soldiers lay still, the man found himself alone in a circle of towering trees. Their branches, thick as a man's waist, began to descend toward him. He tried to run, but roots erupted from the earth to block his path. He tried to fight, but what weapon could harm such ancient power? The branches wrapped around his arms and legs like living shackles. They lifted him high into the air, among the swaying crowns of the trees he had tried to command. For a moment he hung there, suspended between earth and sky, and perhaps in that moment he finally understood the magnitude of what he had destroyed. Then the branches began to pull. He screamed in agony. His limbs stretched taut as the roots continued to pull. His bones started to crack and break. Blood leaked from his limbs as his joints started to separate. The roots pulled and pulled until there was nothing left, ceasing the man's screams with the roots holding 4 equal parts of himself. When dawn broke over the forest, nothing remained of the man and his army but stains upon the earth. The village, too, was gone. Buildings collapsed, wells sealed, fields returned to wilderness. The trees stood as they always had, patient and watchful, their leaves whispering secrets to the wind. But now they whispered a warning as well as wisdom. And so ends the tale of the watching trees, a story that reminds us of a truth as old as time itself. That which is most beautiful and generous in this world, be it nature, love, or trust, can become our greatest enemy when we poison it with greed.